Dude, what
So
now?
first off, I want to ask, sorry that everybody's a part of this. I want to ask, are you cool with editing it, or
Yeah, that's fine.
are you okay?
Well, I mean,
'Cause my
I'll just cut
idea,
some gameplays and throw it over however long the video is. It's not long. It wouldn't be hard.
absolutely, yep. The truth is, this isn't supposed to be about me. I'm merely like somebody asking you questions, and I don't want this to be focused on who's asking them, if that makes sense. I think I'm a great person to like bring out things about creators because I'm not trying to use it against you or to try to better myself, if that makes sense. Like if there was ever a safe place to talk about yourself, it would probably be with like me, you know?
Yeah, I
So I know
mean,
we're doing it live, and that's a little bit different.
it could still be about you-ish, right? Like you're still the device, right? Like the medium of getting the conversation going. But I know what you mean. I
There
know
you
what you mean.
go, though. Yeah, I feel like this could be anybody, but I'm happy it's me because I can control like somebody not using this against somebody else in the future. I always worry about that. Um, like you were saying on stream earlier, we all said some stuff that was not cool, like 10, 15 years ago, and then
Yeah.
it's different now.
Oh
Like,
man, I'll touch on that really quickly. I have a yearbook from middle school, and there's some stuff written in the yearbook that is so bad, and it's like, did me and my friends is that how we talk to each other? It was I was looking at it, I'm like, what year is that yearbook? Like, I don't know. Like oh man, it's so weird, so weird how
you
times have
know,
changed.
exactly, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that it's just showing growth from like everybody at the same time, but I don't want this to be, in a bad way.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I mentioned to Spraggles that I guess your whole chat should hear, which now is a little bit different because everybody's listening, is that everything we talk about here is on your terms. It's okay to say no. You don't have to go into anything. I know that you promote being real, but if something's a little bit too personal, just say no. It's totally okay. I've got enough questions that if you skipped a few, we would have a lot of content still.
And I could insert a joke about me wearing a thong and how good I look here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll
This would
talk
be a
about
perfect segue for that.
No, cool.
Okay. All right. So last year, your content saw huge numbers. In fact, your videos got millions of views alone. Do you think you've lived up to your ideal of being real or like being true to yourself still?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. There are certain things that I still choose not to share too much of, but it's not because I'm intentionally like hiding the truth away. It's more so that just like I don't know how much deeper I could go about things would provide much more value to the sentiment of trying to be myself and being real. Like, I think if I was to give any more specific details, it wouldn't necessarily enrich the experience of trying to be myself on the internet, like making Krashy or Joseph synonymous with one another. I think if anything, it may almost be a little too much, just depending. And I've actually even gotten messages in private from people saying that parts of what they felt I said was inappropriate. And so I've kind of battled with that a little bit back and forth, the sentiment of wanting to be like a realistic person on the internet, but at the same time not wanting to say the wrong thing. So that's been a really interesting line to kind of walk on.
And I think that you do it in such an interesting way too, because I think that there's a lot of differences between us, but at the same time, we have a lot of things in common. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit for all the effort that you put in and that all the effort that people don't understand what it goes towards. Like, someone pops in your stream, they don't know that you're talking about mental health and they don't know that you're talking about being real. And real people are complex. In fact, we all have secrets. We don't share everything on the internet, even as real people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
So I just want you to know that you're a wonderful person. You do live up to your ideals. And I hope you know that. Your community knows that.
I mean,
the people close to you know that.
I definitely try, and I think you don't have to be a perfect person. There is no perfect person. So doing your best is like a win, right? Like that's a dub.
Exactly. So what do you think has been the most influential thing to other people about your content? Something that you think kind of changed people's minds or line of thinking?
Literally, it's probably been something related to the game, because a lot of what I do is just like trying to teach people the game, or like show them like at least the way that I play the game or think about the game. But something a little more like real, or what I hope is happening, is helping people see past the facade of social media. We were talking about it a little bit earlier on this stream, where it's all nonsense. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like 99% of social media is nonsensical lies and pretending, and it's the show, and it's a lot of the commonplace strategy to being a content creator or social media is wearing the mask almost 24/7, because that's the business strategy that works. And while I don't think I'll be the first, I definitely, like, I'm sure somebody could find someone very, very much so following this kind of way of thinking. I want to specifically be one of the content creators that breaks through because I didn't follow that mold. Like, I want to be very well so known as the person that was like, wow, he is really willing to pull it all out there, and it works because it resonates with people, as opposed to wearing this mask and this YouTuber voice all the time where I'm like, what's up, welcome back, blah 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 blah. Like, I just don't know how to put on that kind of energy all the time, and keeping it sustainable. So I'm hoping that effect is reminding people what the real world is, despite what they see every day constantly.
That is actually extremely beautiful. Very well spoken. I think that the things that you stand for and what you're trying to teach people are very important for any age group, but most importantly, influencing people who are going to grow up with people who their whole lives did content creation. I mean, for us, we didn't see content creation pop off or become like a real job until we were, growing into people. And so this is going to be completely different for them. But to have somebody like a role model like you is kind of, in a good way, a great thing. I think that the things you stand for, no matter, trash talk aside, I don't think that's bad. But I think that it's kind of nice that you are you. I think it's genuine. Yeah. And I think that we know it's genuine.
I mean, so at 29 years old, like, I recognize that I came into the online world really early, right? Like, I had like dial-up internet, and like I heard the computer literally beeping at me and making all this noise, and so I feel
one person
like
at a time.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a time before and I saw a time after, and there are generations of young people who know nothing but the phone, right? Like, they know nothing but Twitter and Instagram. I've never seen so many people younger than me. Like, I can't believe I see so many people younger than me that see Instagram and Snapchat way more necessary than some of the social media platforms that I use. Like, their lives are Instagram and Snapchat. And I'm someone that interacts online all the time, and I still can't really put myself in those shoes because it's just so different and almost dystopian, and there's good and bad to it. But I do hope that I can kind of shine that light on some of the bad stuff about it, and kind of reel us back in a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what's some advice you'd offer last year, Krashy, to prepare for your huge year that you just had? Sorry.
I guess it depends on when I'm offering it. Have you ever seen that picture? It's like a picture that gets posted online sometimes, and it's like a drawing, or like almost like a political cartoon, and it's like these two guys, and they're mining in these tunnels, and like one guy is like turning around and he's giving up, and the other guy's like breaking his way to diamonds. And it's like the one guy that turned around and gave up is right there at the wall of diamonds. He just hadn't broken through yet. And like, that picture, I used to look at that a lot and think about that a lot myself in regards to like content creation and trying to do things online. And so I guess like it's like trying to take that picture and put it into words to myself, and just to remind myself, but not just for content, but for everything. Like, just don't give up anything. Like, please, I don't even care how big or how small it is. Just don't give up on anything. because you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't experience what you haven't experienced, and you have to try. Like, doing anything in this world is not worth it if it's easy. Like, doing anything worth it's going to be hard, and if you give up, that is a 100% guarantee that you will not achieve that thing that you're trying to achieve. And you can feel like a failure 100 times over, but it could be that 101st try that was the one that got you there. So you can give up nothing in this life. Like, nothing at all. I don't care what it is, how big or small, you just can't give up.
I don't know what to say other than that was beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So, since that you put so much into content creation and making videos and streaming, do you think any of that prevents you from doing anything that you want to try? Maybe that's more like esports stuff or even trying new platforms.
Yeah, definitely. I think like a part of me is always going to be a very competitive person, and I think I've almost always been good enough to do competitive things and like professional play in most games I've played. But the reality is that the schedule that you have to keep for that, like, I've done it, like, I've played MOBAs professionally, and oh my god, the practice schedule that I used to have, how long we would play day in and day out, like, it doesn't allow for the content creation career. Like, the career in content as a professional player is very, very different. The career in content for a professional player is like stream, like, you blow through streams, you blow through practice, and then you have a person like an editor, or you spend a lot of, behind the scenes time turning that into content, and that content is very like clip and paste, right? But the creative part that comes with just focusing on the content side of things is very, very different, and you don't really have enough time for that part of things. And ironic enough, and I think that this rings true even now in the current age of esports, I think competitive play is so much harder to get into sustainably than being a content creator. Like, I think being a full-time content creator, like YouTuber or streamer, is actually easier to do than being a professional player that can run a long career, because it's just hard. Like, it takes a lot of work. And so I definitely feel like I'm sectioned off from certain things. I mean, in general, just the amount of hours I put into doing the videos and stuff that I do per week, I feel like I have made a lot of sacrifices on like the social front of my life. Like, I don't go out and meet people. I don't really like meet up with friends a whole lot. Like, I've definitely made a lot of sacrifices for not just this last like 6 months to a year, but like for many, many years to try to do and be where I'm at.
Absolutely. You've put a lot of work into where you're at. What got you into casting or like hosting the side of esports?
Yeah. This is a funny story. So there's a really famous kind of like more old school caster from like the Halo days. His name's Chris Puckett. He's still around today, but Chris Puckett has this very, very animated kind of caster voice. Like, it's very character like, and it's very well done. Like, it's crafted in a really good way. And I remember joking on like a game I was playing, like pretending to be Chris Puckett casting, and then one of my friends was like, "Hey, yo, that was actually pretty good." And then I kept pretending to be Chris Puckett and kept like trying to get better at the impersonation that I was doing, which I didn't know at the time would lead me to actually just enjoying casting. And then just throughout the years, I've been casting for like 8 or 9 years. I've casted various games, never anything too major, except for I did a Twitch Rivals event and I did a live Fortnite event in Seattle. But outside of those 2 events, I never really did anything too crazy. It was just a lot of online tournaments or like a local LAN event, like for Gears of War back in the ballroom days. It was like a Hilton hotel. We did a LAN event in the ballroom of a Hilton hotel, and I casted one of those series. So it's always just been like a little bitty stuff, but it was all just the meme of me like impersonating an actual caster.
Oh my gosh, I miss LAN tournaments.
Oh,
that is
man.
something I really miss.
The good old days, yeah.
I know, yeah. Listen, last year you held the most engaging tournament, hosting large numbers of teams and sporting beautiful graphics, all while casting with Spraggles. Was that hard to pull off in the time that you had?
I feel like no one can possibly understand how hard that Krashy Cup show match was, because I'll explain the technical side of it. I was running, oh god, okay, I had 4 OBS scenes set up. I had the caster scene. No, maybe three or four OBS scenes set up. I had the caster scene, which is like the scene with me and Spraggles on the screen. I had the gameplay scene, which is like just the scene of the gameplay, the spectator mode with the graphics on it, and I had the pick ban face scene. So we had 3 scenes set up. But behind the scenes, I had Photoshop open for the pick ban phase scene. And what I did was I would import the Photoshop image into the pick ban scene, and I would change the image in Photoshop in real time and save over. I would overwrite that file because I didn't have, like, I don't know how to program stuff. There's people that could program and do the animations for all those images to change and update. I just don't know how to do that. So I was casting and providing like color commentary and just like between game commentary while changing graphics, while overwriting save files, while working my stream deck on my OBS. And like, oh my God, it was just so much to do. And it wasn't like the best production in the world, but for like a 1-person show that just happened to have like another caster in my ear and like working with me, it was pretty challenging. But it was really fun. So I wouldn't not have done it, but there's a reason why I haven't done another one.
Listen, I'm not going to let you sell yourself short. That was literally the most beautiful tournament we've seen, even rivaling Twitch Rivals. Twitch Rivals had nothing on that in terms of graphics. It was absolutely gorgeous. All that work showed, and we saw it.
Yeah,
Listen,
that was a tough one.
I am very curious, though. Were you ready for the turnout that happened in the tournament? Like all the commentary you got and then all the feedback you got? Like, were you ready for all that?
I think what I wasn't ready for was the way that the pick bans shaped up. Like some of the picks that I thought were going to be super high priority ended up falling down. But I think it also is like hard to say that was like for sure the draft meta at the time, because no team has had time or a necessity to play draft that much. So draft meta for this game hasn't evolved. Like even the best teams in the game at the time, like we had Bad Macro, Flipbird, and TTV, but even those teams haven't had time to draft against each other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games because there's just no need for it. Like the game doesn't support that right now. So I was really shocked and surprised at how it turned into. What ended up happening was when that event was over, it sparked a Twitter conversation between the two teams about how draft would be really good for the game and how draft would also be really bad for the game, at least in this current period of time. So it was really interesting how I feel like it went really well. It was super awesome to watch because it was really unique, but at the same time, it like reminded us how logistically it would be a nightmare until they build it into the game, and how problematic it is because of the low support pool, because that's really the big problem with drafting right now is we just don't really have the supports for it mainly.
Absolutely. I have to agree, but do you think that you influenced more draft tournaments after you held yours?
Have there been others? I mean, there was one before us. Like we weren't the first draft tournament, and they had a pretty decent production. I think it was like European or Russian tournament, I can't remember. And I know, especially like having talked to like Chris Heroes, he's a European player that plays on an NA team. Like I know he really wants draft and stuff like that, because he's kind of a veteran MOBA player as well. And I'm just itching for draft because I just find mirror matches to be, they're just boring. They're not that interesting to me to watch the same pick, and the meta doesn't even get to thrive. Like the problem with mirror matches that we have is that not only is it like not interesting to watch, it actually completely alters our perception of the meta. Like there are picks that are incredibly good that we tend to even right now feel are not that good because there's just no reason for them to come out, and that sucks. So it's like draft just like really does like truly make the game better. But I think it's just the problem with influencing the community to run more draft tournaments is that logistically, if there's not a way to do it in game, like locked in where the system just runs itself, it turns into a logistical nightmare. Like if you're trying to run like a 64 team tournament and you have to force manual drafts, it makes that day really long, because there's going to be a lot of like, oh, well, they messed up. They picked the wrong thing. They said this, they did that. It would just, it would be a nightmare.
Absolutely. Who would you ban today if you had only one ban pick?
Probably Wiggly. I hate Wiggly stuff. It would either be Wiggly or Lucario, but it would probably be Wiggly.
Her little cute ears, they just be wiggling, and that just really gets to you.
I hate that character.
the attract when you don't aggress towards her is really hard, I think. She's up there for me too, I getcha.
Mm-hmm.
So last year you dropped several banger videos having titles about how the game needed to make changes. Do you think that you influenced changes in any way?
I think it would be naive to say no, but it definitely doesn't feel like it. Like, so there's like an emotional answer and there's like a literal answer. There's like, absolutely not. They don't listen to anything I say. They don't care. But absolutely we did. It's weird. It's hard to feel where they pull from, but it's like, I know that there's some sentiments that get loud enough that they make changes to the game because of it. And it's just really hard to know what all they're listening to and what all they're paying attention to. But Teeds not that long ago said something that I think was really important. It actually kind of changed my perspective. A long time ago now, they actually reached out to Teeds and had her write an article. And she was like, well, the only reason that happened is because they had to have seen my YouTube and reached out to me. So it's like, there's someone and they're listening to something and they're doing something with it, but I don't know what it is. So like, absolutely, but kinda, maybe, hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between. We're marketing them for free and they love that. And also, please get that back to the developers.
Yeah.
So, a little off topic here, but Battlefield 2042's launch with bad and buggy matchmaking left the brand new game at lower numbers than Battlefield 5, which was released in 2018. Players reported waiting up to 20 minutes for almost any match. How do you think that a terrible release like that relates to Unite in the way that it's working now? Do you think that devs at Teamy prioritize time to avoid the Battlefield 2042 effect?
So that's a really interesting parallel to draw, for a couple of reasons. One, I was really looking forward to 2042, and it's just been a pretty big letdown. The game's really just like an unbalanced, buggy mess, which is really sad. But I don't know how to speak to their matchmaking problems, but I think that the very clear design of Unite, especially because you can look at it, like it's mobile and it's Switch, it's meant to be fast. Like everything about the game is meant to be fast. Like I don't think we'll ever have like a longer game mode. Like I think 10 minutes will probably be the standard forever. I don't think they're ever going to compromise the number one bullet point on the chalkboard or the whiteboard that they wrote when they built the game, and their business plan. So like internally, their plan is all centered around fast. And so some of my biggest fears about the game is that I don't think that some of the changes that I ever even hope to see may never even happen because of that design philosophy. And so I don't necessarily think that it's like in response to like the industry or in response to any particular launch or fear of XYZ. I think it's more so they had a goal, they set out to achieve it, they achieved it, and it's almost like we will achieve and uphold this goal to any degree, no matter what, like despite anything else, to a reasonable extent. Like if the game starts dying, then like they may make some really drastic changes, but if the game's not truly suffering, and I don't think the game is suffering, they will probably try to uphold that goal forever.
That's actually very true, and hits on the next question I actually have for you about the direction Unite is going. Do you think it will always be the way it is with obvious updates since it's live service, but no real fundamental changes like prestige and ranks, or do you think it will full 180 and hit the competitive side eventually?
I think they'll bow and give like 30% of what we want. Because I think that it's important to recognize that the game is a competitive game, and they wouldn't have gone the MOBA route if they didn't want competitive. I hate leaning on this like Worlds leak announcement that hasn't been made, but I kind of have to. So there was a leak, for anybody that doesn't know, that suggests that there may be like a Pokemon Unite Worlds event at the actual Pokemon Worlds event, like a LAN event with 16 teams globally. So that's a leak, and we don't 100% know that it's happening, but it's pretty credible, and we think that's going to happen. So I've been saying this for a really long time. They built the game with some competitive tools in place day one, like global leaderboard, ranked mode. They were testing the spectator in the beta. Like, there were so many of these things, custom matches right out of the gate. There were so many things that were directly pointed at competitive that it wouldn't make sense for them to completely shy away from competitive and ignore us entirely, because that would just be the opposite of their design choice. But I do still think that, again, that bullet point at the top of that list, casual, inclusivity, barrier for entry, fast, like all of those bullet points are going to take priority over everything else. So I could see them bending and giving up a little bit on some of their, like, we really don't want to do that, but they're never going to stop asking, and giving us what we want. But I don't know if I've said this recently. I don't think this game will ever be what I want it to be. That doesn't mean it's not a game that I don't enjoy or wouldn't enjoy, but I don't think it'll ever be truly what I wish it would be.
I think we all feel that in a way. I think we all have some ways, and they're all actually very similar, how we would fix the game. But I don't know that they'll ever get 100% to where we know it could be. But I think that if they met us halfway, we could see real engagement for a while. Um, but how do you think the game influences the community? Like, do you think that the game matches up with what you're saying for people and then what it wants you to do?
It's weird. There's actually few things that seem unanimously agreed on. And so sometimes when I have these really like harsh opinions about things, I sometimes think like, this might just be a me thing. And then I even get comments where people are like, Krashy, like, bro, like, chill. Like, this is just you play the game like X amount of hours a week. Like, nobody plays like as much as you. Like, there's no way this is a real issue. And then I think to myself, like, maybe it is just a perspective thing. So I don't know. I think the game wishes they could make someone like me conform a little bit more, but they can't. And I think that I probably am in a vocal minority. So, you know, some of the things that feel like big issues in the data driven side of information that they have about their players and their player base and their financial status, it may not be an issue to them at all. Like me saying like, we need better matchmaking, this is a potentially existential issue, they might be looking at the data saying, no, it's not, nobody's quitting, we're gaining users month over month. You know, I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know if the game is I kind of got lost on the question. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know if the game is making people play the game. I don't. Yeah, I kind of got lost in that whole thought. My bad.
No, you're good. I think that the game gives us one thing that it tells us that we're supposed to do, but does a poor job of explaining. So I think that like when it tells us to rotate to Rotom or Dreadnought, it, you know, failed to tell us about the Dreadnought debuff earlier in the game's life. So I think you hit the nail on the head with matchmaking, though.
Yeah, so as far as like the actual in-game stuff, I think that like y'all, like you and Spraggle said it like perfectly. Like they don't want to publish the information, maybe because that's a marketing tactic and we can make all this content talking about patch notes and stuff. But I also think they don't want to publish that kind of information because it becomes a daunting piece of literature for someone to have to read and dissect, right? Like if, you know, player X, Y, and Z just want to hop on the game and play their favorite character, like, well, you know, be damned if they have to understand why that character is S tier, A tier, B tier, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? So I think that they would rather lean on the side of these people want to play these characters and have a good time, and then the vocal minority want to dissect and rip apart and chew into every little bit of information. So so yeah, I think that there's some strategy in that for sure, but I also think that there's like a literal nature of like, it's really just not that necessary a lot of the time, probably.
So I know you mentioned data earlier. I have a curious question, but it's okay to not answer because it's sort of about your analytics. I'm curious, do you think that who they want to play the game matches up with who is actually playing / showing up to your streams or data that you have? Do you think those two things match up?
Yeah, I think they do. I think, well, Kinda, kinda. The reason why is because I think they wish they could get more of the people that aren't showing up in my analytics, but the nature of the genre they picked probably aims straight towards what we're seeing. Like the majority of my analytics are like mostly men, an actual surprisingly higher percentage of women than I was expecting, and it's mostly people around my age group, so like mid 20s to mid 30s that are playing the game that tend to lean more seriously. That said, I don't know if those analytics and that kind of data would line up with the majority of players, though, because I think the people that are going out of their way and seeking content, the people that are going out of their way and watching streamers consistently, may end up falling in that same category of me of being the vocal minority, where we end up being the people that are so interested in the game that we want to do more with it, so interested in the game that we're seeking it out, we're learning every little bitty thing about it. So I think that what they probably see is different than what I see, but they're probably still seeing a good bit of the same, right? I would, man, I'm dying to know what percentage of the player base, like active player base on Unite, is actually children, because I actually truly struggle to believe that it's that high at all, but it might be. I don't know what quick match the quick match community is like. I don't know what the standard community is actually like.
And not to confirm the bias, but the few, and I mean few, people that I've talked to about this also express the same sentiment. I'm actually not seeing children engage with my content, or really anybody, based on what's available data anyways. So I have to wonder why it's so dumbed down sometimes. I know it's supposed to be uber casual, but I don't feel like it's doing a good job of engaging the people that it's actually hitting.
It's weird. I actually feel like man, it's so impressive, and I have a hard time explaining it sometimes, especially for people that watch me that don't come from other MOBAs. They took the MOBA formula and they completely changed it, and it worked. Like, they took MOBAs and they made it incredibly simple, and it actually landed on its feet, and they did it years and years behind the trend, which a lot of MOBAs tried to capitalize and like come out right after League of Legends and Dota were getting really popularized, and they tried to find their like nooks and crannies in the space, and they couldn't do it. And Pokemon Unite comes like I don't know, like a decade later, and is like, oh yeah, we can do that. And they didn't just become successful because of the IP. Like, the game is good enough. Now, that said, I think if the game didn't have this IP, it wouldn't be as successful, but I think the game is good enough that they nailed the MOBA side of it. And ironically, the game feels incredibly casual, and it's I definitely think that it's designed very casually, but it still ends up being incredibly competitive. And so I think that what their goal was for their target audience was literally anyone. And I think that they actually kind of crushed that, because it's so easy to see how much a person like me, who's very serious and very like older and a little bit more MOBA veteran and stuff like that, is willing to engage on the game every single day. I'm playing a Switch game. I have a $4,000 computer in the other room for playing PC games, and I'm playing on a Switch every single night of my life. Like, they kind of crushed it, at least in captivating this side of the audience. I wonder how well they're doing at captivating the casual side.
I have to wonder too. That's a really good question, actually. I don't think that they're keeping or retaining the casual side. In my honest opinion, I think people cycle with casual games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that that's anything but the player base returning some time for updates and stuff, but I don't think they're playing like you and I are in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, which is crazy, because that's why I think that the long-term strategy for this game is to guarantee that the ranked side of things is working well. Like, I think, and it's not like it's just a small well, I say that, I don't know, this could be biased just because I'm online. Like, I see it all over Reddit, I see it on Twitter, I see it in YouTube comments. It seems like everybody that does engage in this game without just playing it in silence on their own seems to hate matchmaking. Like, it does genuinely feel like everyone hates matchmaking. So it feels like if the game does have a long-term strategy, it's to nail the desire of the people that are engaging consistently, not just the people that hop on for the update here and there. But I think the goal is both, right? Like, free to play game, like, they don't care if you're 13, they don't care if you're 30, you know, they don't care if you're, 80. Like, they just want whoever's willing to get on the game and spend money on it, whether it be frequently or infrequently.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a big part of the price points there for a reason. I think that the skins came out at the price they did because I think they saw this as hyper casual in some ways.
Mhm.
So it's nice to catch those whales while they're here.
Well, that or even like, I mean, you could literally catch somebody on a returning patch and they might see a $40 skin and be like, you know what, I haven't played this game in a while, and drop $40. I don't know, you know. I think the spending habits of humans is definitely something that I quite don't understand in all areas of industry. Like whether it be gaming or not, I see people buy some really interesting stuff in their lives and I don't quite get it. So who knows? I don't know. I don't know.
I have to agree with you. It's still a mystery to me, but maybe one day we'll crack it. Maybe one day we figure it out just a little bit better.
Listen, I've just never understood. Like I get it because it looks cool, but I've never quite understood the like expensive clothes, expensive shoes game. Like I see, like I had a buddy that had like $600 pair of shoes, and I was just like, bro, there's like a puddle of mud like every 10 feet when it rains, man. I don't know, like I don't know what you're doing. So yeah, I never quite.
We
got
are
that.
birds of a feather in that way. Yep. I have to agree with you. I struggled to buy a real chair to support my back. And I struggled to see the price tag on a a Secret Labs chair.
Yeah,
And I
they're
was like,
tough.
I'm glad I invested though, now that it's over, but geez, man, that was a jump for me. I've never seen a chair that much.
Yeah, my big DX racer that I have in the other room is a buddy of mine's. He gave it to me for $100. It's the only reason I have it. It's like the only reason at all that I have it. Otherwise, this is the chair I'm sitting in right now is like a cheapy Amazon office chair that I've had for like 6 years. I think I got it from my ex-girlfriend's parents, like literally like I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
I'm not gonna lie, for months I sat at a kitchen table chair.
Oh, I
Months.
used to do that. We had this like formal dining room set, and like the chair was like covered in like this really warm material. Like you would sit on it and your legs were hot, and it had like the drapes over the legs. Like it was such a formal dining room chair, and the legs were and stuff were made out of wood. And my mom had a set of 4 of those for the dining room. When me and her like we split, like me and my mom went different directions. She moved away for work and I moved into my apartment. I took 2 of those chairs and I used those chairs as my gaming chairs for years, to the point where I was using those chairs for so long that the wood would splint because I would just up and down. And I was like repairing the chairs before buying a chair.
Yep, I actually used it until I stripped the bolt.
Yeah.
On the back. Yeah, that was pretty sad. I get you though, man. I don't know. It's one of those things it's hard to break once you're like, I don't see the hype of it, you know? And
Yeah.
even buying it, I'm like,
And then there are some things where you finally do buy something and you're like, oh my god, I should have done this so long ago. Like,
I have to agree though, my back do be feeling better after streaming for a couple hours.
yeah, it was. So one of the things that I feel like, especially like being in content, and again, it's perspective and where you are. Being in content, I always like looked at the Elgato Stream Deck and I thought like, it's just a bunch of buttons, right? Like you don't really need it. And then I got one and I was like, oh my god, this thing is actually an amazing little piece of technology. And now I have 2 of them and I'm like, this thing's great. Like I can't imagine doing some of the content stuff that I do without this little lit up little buttons. Like I can't imagine it. And so gosh, like I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Sorry, we can go back to the topic again. I'm so sorry, man. So, what's your take on trash talking? I know you talked a little bit about this earlier on your stream, but do you think this benefits you or others in any way? And believe me, this isn't actually a trick question. I'm just genuinely asking.
I think that the way that I act on stream and the trash talk and the being loud and doing all this nonsense, I think that it is genuinely it's on the stronger side of being damaging to me than it is helpful. And the crazy thing is that I am unwavering in my belief that I will never quit, because it ties so much into who I am and where I came from with gaming, and it's so fun. Like fun, not just the rage and the anger and the tilt with me. It's actually just so much fun that I can't give it up. and it's a piece of my past. It's a piece of where I want to go in my future, and I don't want to let that part of gaming die, because I do think that the world has grown a little bit softer, and I do think that the world takes things a little bit too seriously, and I do think that the world is more willing to support overwhelming positivity than even just being realistic. Like, and again, I'm going to go on a small tangent here. I've had people get mad at me, like literally like yap at me about, dude, we follow you for gaming, we don't want to hear about mental health stuff. We follow you for gaming, we don't want to hear about this, that, or the other. So at some point in all of that like noise, I made the decision to keep all of me or none of me, right? Like, I'm going to share all of me or none of me, and the trash talk comes with it. I think it's to my detriment, but I think that it's got to come with it, and I love it, and it'll never go away. It'll never not be a part of, you know, my content, at least.
Yeah, and actually, I am gonna disagree with being to your detriment. Now, you might have a very vocal minority, but genuinely, I see that most people who come to your streams come for, not to put terms on it, but your masculine energy. It's not my place to police that one. I don't have the same feelings you do, but I do feel like in general, men and people who feel more that version of like fun is yelling and getting really hyped, you are a safe place for them. And it's not to say that like some people might be uncomfortable with that, but some people are uncomfortable with my content too. And while I may seem a little overwhelmingly positive, I am also not trying to be fake. I mean, I feel like I'm hosting a community in kindness, but even for me, people say that's gross, or I'm just here for dudes. A lot of people think this is like a big ploy for money. Like, somebody told me I was the next Belle Delphine. Like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that the vocal minority sometimes does get out, but I do want to express that I think that you really are your community's safe place.
It's
Like, I do think it's a healthy thing for you and your community have that space.
I think it's a calculated it's like a calculated risk, right? Because like, I think I've had this belief that like, if you act more fake on the internet, I think that it'll actually put you ahead, and I kind of hate that. So that's definitely a part of the reason why I do what I do. But the reason I say that is because if I was to take my opinion on Unite at any given moment and infuse it with a shot of positivity, people in general, in my experience, would like me more. If I was never upset about the game, if I was never negative or ragey or shit talky about anything, I think that I would slightly have people like me more. And even to the point, and I'm not letting another person's opinion kind of like change the way I think, but I have even had people say verbatim, if you acted more like Spraggles, people would like you more. Or someone, I think he was using it as a way to hurt me. Someone said, no wonder Spraggles has like 4 times your following. Like, look at how you act or something. And it's like, so I think that it's like, it's a calculated strategy to compromise with myself and say, you know what, this is the person I want to be, but it could lead to, you know, less people finding me as appealing to watch, or less people, or it could lead to people thinking I'm a little bit too abrasive for them, or it could lead to a brand out there saying, I don't know if I want to work with a guy that says, hey, you can lick my ass, you know, like so it could lead to all of those things, but I think that it's probably worth it in the long run. So that's why I've kind of stuck with it.
I have to agree with you, but I also have to say that I don't think Spriggles is being boosted because of him or his content versus like you're not. I think that you both have your place in the community, and I think they commingle, of course, you know, it's all the Unite community, but at the same time, we all serve a different purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to support people, you're here to give people like your energy, your masculine energy, and then Spraggles is more like comedic relief, you know? He pops by, randomly gives you some jokes in a song, and he's gone. I think we all serve a different purpose here, and I don't think it's healthy, one, for your community to try to pit people against each other. That's kind of weird. We're all here
Yeah.
to build each other up, not break each other down. It's hard to be a content creator. You need friends. You don't want to feel that way towards someone you like, you know? So
It's
weird energy from the community, not
it's
you.
so funny because I think that this happens a lot. People will attach themselves to a creator and back themselves into a corner standing in front of that creator without asking and say, like, I got you, bro. Like, I'm your knight in shining armor in this corner, and I will fight any other creator for you. And so then they'll bring their opinion and be like, oh, well, Spraggles is way better than Krashy. He's way funnier, definitely much more attractive, blah, 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 blah. And then Spraggles will be like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like, that's my friend. Like, there's no need to do that. And vice versa. People will be like, who do you think's better, you or Yumu's? And I'm like, who cares? Like that's my friend. Like, I appreciate, like, these are, at minimum, if they're not my friends, they're my colleagues. And the best way to look at it is I would never look at these other creators as competition per se. Like, I do look at them as competition, but I would never look at them as like my rival, because it's a much sweeter situation to be in when I can like work with them and use them as a resource and watch them grow and think to myself, wow, Spraggles blew up. And I watched it and I remember just like, even on some of my streams, I'm just like, wow, this is crazy to watch. And I think to myself, like, that's awesome. That guy likes me. Like, that's awesome. That guy actually likes me and likes making videos with me. So I don't ever look at people in a negative way when they're doing well. It's only positive as long as they don't have some kind of weird grudge against me. And then you can believe I'll try to snuff that out, because I don't like when people don't like me. I'm not good at that.
Yeah, I think that we all can kind of notice when people's energy or the way they act towards us is different. I think that nobody enjoys that, even in the real world or even in like a work environment. And I would call this a work environment. It's not a good place to talk ill about people, especially if you're trying to better yourself, because it doesn't help anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've literally seen people make what I think is a pretty detrimental mistake of being publicly overly jealous of someone else and playing the woe is me, why don't I have that, I deserve it, and it's never worked. And like, sometimes I almost want to grab some of these people by the shoulders and say, like, dude, you need to just shut your mouth, because when you keep saying like, oh, I don't see why, like, okay, this actually, I'm gonna make a hypothetical. Twitch Rivals happened and a bunch of creators got picked and I didn't. And I'll tell you straight up, I was like, man, I really wanted to be in that. I'm pretty sure I know why I wasn't. I don't stream on Twitch. I'm partnered on Twitch, but I don't put any hours there. And they probably saw that and were thinking, well, we're not going to use that guy. No big deal. Move on to the next one. But how ridiculous would it have been for me to go to take to Twitter with some campaign and say, I don't see why they would have picked creator XYZ when I'm Krashy. Like, I have this many numbers, this much internet points, and how dare they? Like, that would be the biggest way to shoot someone's self in the foot. And people do that all the time. They let jealousy and the desire to be in a position overshadow their own work ethic. And man, what a shame that is when people do that.
You know, it is actually socially acceptable to just clap for people and be happy for them. You know, it doesn't have to be seen in the long run
Nonsense.
as, yeah. No, it's not nonsense.
Nonsense.
We can be happy for others.
We can, yeah.
It's true. It's true. Listen, I feel like I'm in a weird spot because I don't like gaining in content. It's scary to have people watch. But I feel like my peers want that, and they're trying to put content against an algorithm, and sometimes it works for one person and then another person who's literally doing the same thing it doesn't work for. And
Yeah.
I don't claim to understand it, but I surely don't have a grudge against people who also can't control the algorithm or being boosted. Like, nobody meant to boost and you didn't. Nobody tried to do that on purpose.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I can tell you that there's a very distinct type of Unite content that gets made frequently that I'm a huge hater of, but not to the point of publicly hating it or saying like, wow, I really wish XYZ creator would stop doing that terrible video or those types of videos. It's just not for me, right? And the great part about it is that when you look at it and you say, oh, well, shit, that's working, like, a part of you almost goes, man, maybe I should dip my hand in the cookie jar and try some things out. I think I think, like, I'm going to jump back to Spraggles for a second. What I envy about Spraggles is that I think that even if I wanted to emulate his success or do things the way that he does it, because I thought, let's say it was just because I thought it was algorithm based, I just don't think I could pull it off. Like, people have their own skill sets and their own sets of, like, their own talent, and his talent is very unique. And so, like, the things that I see that work for me may not necessarily work for him, even if he was bigger than me and wanted to hostile take over my way of doing things. And the things that work for other people that I do think I'm capable of may not be something I'm interested in. So, you know, the crazy thing about YouTube just in general is that there is a YouTube channel or a YouTube community for anything. And so I've seen big creators, like people that run like multiple channels. I watch some creators that are all about just creating content, like that is their channels. They talk about creating it, they talk about how to get better at it. And I've seen some creators go as far as to say something that I say about ranked. Being a full-time YouTuber, I've had creators literally in their videos say is actually incredibly easy. You just have to pick the right thing. And it's like, wow, that's really powerful, because I've never thought that being a full-time YouTuber was an easy thing to get into. But I guess if it's perspective based, and if you find the right industry, and if you're good at it, and if you work hard, then maybe it is kind of simple to get into. And so sometimes I see people making a certain type of content and I think, man, that's really not for me, and I don't really care for it. I might not watch it, but it's like, hey, don't hate the player, hate the game, man. Like, they're making it work. If the algorithm likes it, then you're pleasing the boss, right? Like,
Absolutely. I would argue, though, that if someone's demographic is to get better at YouTube, the number one thing you're going to want to do is say you're good at YouTube and that it's easy.
True.
Just watch this guy.
True. That's actually, that's really smart. I don't know. I watched this guy. I wish I could remember his name. I actually recently subbed to him because I realized I was watching a bunch of his videos off recommended, and he talks about the business side of setting up like a YouTube channel. And he went on this tangent about how he was like, I'm pretty positive I could make a YouTube channel about any kind of industry and do decently well in it, just because he has like his kind of formula for how to set up a channel and how to grow a channel. He was like, but would I be happy making that kind of content? And I was like, ooh, that's a really good question. Like, could you imagine, like, maybe I turn into like a K-pop review channel, and maybe I would be really good at that. Don't think about like the whether or not I have the expertise on it, but could I execute that kind of video? Well, yeah, I could watch a K-pop song or a video and I could give my review on it. Would it be good? Sure, maybe. Could I execute the edit? Absolutely, I could. But would I be happy doing that? And would people want to watch me do that? It's like there's all these kinds of different things to think about, because there is an industry on YouTube for like almost anything. It's kind of crazy.
I have to agree with you, and you have to remember too that for every industry that there is, there's always that person who's trying to sell the industry to you as well. There's someone who's like, man, this is growing. It's still great, you know, especially behind like financial stuff, anything lifestyle related.
NFTs.
Literally.
Oh,
NFTs are huge for that. I actually think that it's so funny that they make memes about NFTs now. Like, I'm so glad we've advanced as a society that we're now warning people about NFTs. It's like MLM, but for like really sad dudes.
Oh my gosh. NFTs. I can't. That could be a whole video. Hard.
There you go. See, and then watch this. Your NFT video is going to pop off, and then you're not sure if you're going to go with NFT content or not.
Yeah, man, you never know. You never know. I could literally make a whole video just ripping NFTs and how stupid I think it is. And then again, somebody probably did that about Bitcoin like 15 years ago. So who knows?
You know, and I don't think it's that NFTs are all bad. I think the idea that you can have an algorithm change it at a moment's notice thousands of times in a minute tells me how little value they are.
I'll do the quick rundown on my perspective of NFTs. I think that blockchain technology is incredibly elegant, and using it for a small piece of artwork that nobody actually wants to hang on to try to make a little bit of money just means that it's someone using someone else to make money. It's like as simple as that. Like if nobody actually looks at the artwork and wants to truly own it, and you're only buying it to sell it off to somebody else to make money off of them, then someone is winning. Somewhere in the world of NFTs, someone's winning, and someone is losing very, very badly. And that's what the NFT market is right now for digital digital art as NFTs. Like, somebody is hurting someone else and they don't see it and they feel justified in what they're doing. And that is incredibly sad to me.
I would even take it one step further and say it's a little predatory because the top of the market knows that they're doing well and they continue to sell. And I know the bottom of the market is most of the, I mean, 99% of anything that you post on those blockchain websites is not going anywhere or being sold. The top of those people who are being sold, though, have really, came out with $1 million. And it's only because of the people who thought that they could make money.
Yeah, and then that's not even scratching the surface of paid promotions and sponsorships and this, that, the other. I mean,
oh my gosh, this
is essentially no different than the phase scandal with the Save the Kids token. There's a lot of rug pulling. There's a lot of potential money laundering. There's a lot of take from the people that have these dreams of getting rich and exploiting that need to want to be a part of something, exploiting that FOMO, the fear of missing out, and using your pre-existing influence to do it, which is, oh man, I think to a future version of myself, like let's say hypothetically I ever reach 100,000 subs, I think to a future version of myself and I say, would you ever be capable of doing that to someone else? And I just can't answer that question. Yes. Like, I don't think I could ever be capable of doing something that I know, whether or not I could see their face, that would hurt somebody. I just can't. I can't see it. But people do it every day. So that's my NFT moment.
You have to wonder too. I won't mention any sponsors by name because I don't want you to have this problem in the future. But I do think that I see some sponsors who sponsor with people who have audiences that are purely children. They're in the millions of viewers, and they choose to sponsor something that's, full of caffeine or like really trying to get you to try something like nootropics, which is, just a bunch of like over the counters that you can like buy. And it's a whole thing. I do find it weird that the market corners the children and tries to like get them to buy the NFTs or gets them to try to buy whatever. I hate to call them drugs, but it kind of feels like a little bit like a drug. Yeah. And they push it off on people who are impressionable all the time because that's the people who buy it.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's the I feel like the NFT market is the like slightly older anime profile pic Fortnite player kid. That's like the target. Like, I hate saying that, but it's like the kid that used to play Fortnite that followed XYZ influencer and was really excited about being a follower of them. And then next thing you know, that follower is like shoving NFTs on their Twitter timeline and, want to be like, aspiring Fortnite pro who didn't make it in Fortnite, but was, living a lot of the last like 2 to 3 years in the pandemic online, finding a lot of their content and their entertainment through Twitter and through Twitch and YouTube, who trust this person because it's what they've known for the last, handful of years, while also was a big portion of their, young adulthood life, is now buying into this belief. And 14, 15, 16-year-olds going to turn 21 one day and think, wow, how much money did I waste on those little pictures of monkeys?
Oh my gosh, yeah, little pictures of monkeys. That's exactly what it is.
So there's definitely a layer of this. I could tie this into a much more normal topic really easily. There's definitely a layer of being an influencer. I hate that word, by the way, but there's definitely a layer of being an influencer that is true to the name, like very incredibly true to the name. And it takes a lot for a person to be responsible with that influence. And there's a lot of people that aren't.
You've actually brought this up on stream before, and I remember this topic well. You had expressed that with your influence, you could never see, I don't know if it was exactly like this, but it was something along the lines of, I should say, that you could never see yourself selling other people something you don't play or anything like that. Do you still think that is true for you?
The only way I would do it is if I depending on the contract, because it would depend on what I'm literally allowed to say. Depending on what I'm allowed to say, if XYZ game or service or product came to me with a ridiculous, and I say it almost like I'm speaking through the script of Django Unchained, a ridiculous amount of money to where you can't turn it down. If I was allowed at some point to disclose that I'm doing it for that purpose and that purpose alone, then I would do the deal. I would take I would push the product. I would hopefully be able to do it in an easily digestible way for people to know intentionally what the goal is. So then I can take that ridiculous amount of money and do something that I truly find value with. If Raid Shadow Legends comes knocking on my door and they want to give me 10 grand for an hour, I'm taking it. I'm taking it, and I promise you, whatever that hour's worth of nonsense that we spit out would be worth it because of what I can do with that money. So 9 times out of 10, no, absolutely not. The amount of brand deals that I've been offered that I've turned down already, it's not like I'm getting them in daily or anything, but I have turned down a lot or just completely ignored the emails. It's astounding how much just like nonsense products and mobile games and this and that. And no, I can't. I don't think I can push something I don't believe in. And that's why, like, I don't really cold call sponsors either. Like, I tweeted today at G Fuel because I'm literally, like, I love G Fuel. I've been drinking G Fuel for years and I actually really like their product. And I would love to push their product as a partner for them. But the main reason why is because recently I started trying the Crash Bandicoot flavor. And that's like what I'm named after, is Crash Bandicoot. And it's actually my favorite flavor. Like, crazy coincidence, it's my favorite flavor, and like I just feel like it's perfect. It's like having a flavor of G Fuel like A Drive has, but without actually having a flavor.
You know what? We're rooting for you, man. I am rooting for that G Fuel sponsorship. I hope you get that. I hope they make it Krashy flavor for you too, because there'd be nothing better. I think that's so adorable. Oh,
yeah,
that's wholesome. So I don't mean to circle all the way back to Unite, but I feel like I don't want to keep you forever.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the worst mechanic is in Unite?
Ooh, the worst mechanic. What is the worst mechanic? I'm always bad at the questions that lean into the extremes because it makes me have to, like, I don't want to give the wrong answer and regret it. I see one in my chat and I might agree with it. Is that a mechanic though? I feel like it depends on what the definition of mechanic is. Am I allowed to just cheese it and give 2?
Go for it.
I feel like I do that all the time. Like I'll make a video and it'll be like top 5 this, and I'll put 6 things in, and in the video I'm like, what are you gonna do? Get mad at me? Like, I made it 6 things. What are you gonna do? So okay, surrender vote is probably really high on the list. Drew in chat said it for me. I can't stand. I think it is utter nonsense to have a ranked 10-minute game with a surrender vote. Nonsense. There's no, like, I want to shake people that try to argue with me on this. It's nonsense to have a competitive game that's only a mere 10 minutes long and have a surrender option in it. I think the other one, and actually it's funny because Blockade just dumped it in chat as well. Maybe somebody else said it too. It's a game about scoring, and it doesn't have a scoreboard, at least for ranked. Like, I think that's a lack thereof to answer the question. But like, having a surrender vote in a 10-minute competitive game for ranked is silly. It needs to be gone. And not having a scoreboard for a competitive mode seems so silly to me. Like, these are things that would just fundamentally, instantaneously, if they added a scoreboard into ranked tomorrow, and if they removed a surrender option tomorrow, the game would be better for it, and I will have no counter arguments thrown my way.
Absolutely. I have to say, I try to push the surrender vote agenda as much as I can. It frustrates me that somebody will have one bad play right at 5 minutes and it's immediately the surrender vote.
You know, it would be one thing if the surrender vote was on the majority case use of that surrender vote, if the majority of the time that someone pressed it, they truly thought, you know what, I think this one's over, I'm gonna surrender now. If that was how it was used, I would be fine with it. But it's so blatantly obvious that people use it as a way to rub it in your face that you're doing bad, to rub it in the whole team's face that you're doing bad, to be malicious because they just died, to be obnoxious, to be annoying. It's so obvious that it's being abused as a feature to the point that in a game so short, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Like, it's such a griefer tool that it shouldn't exist, at least on the rank side of the game at all. I can't stand it. It's yeah. And actually, for the sake of saying, the only way I would be fine with the surrender option is if you reduce the time that it was available to be clicked, or you cut it down to 1 click per person, so like you can only bring it up like 1 time. And if the vote was unanimous, then who's stopping you, right? Like, then I have no problem. But they should reduce spamming of it. If I had to compromise with surrender vote, reduce the spamming of surrender and make the vote need to be unanimous.
You know what's really frustrating is that they seem to think that the 5-minute mark is the defining time in the game to start surrendering, which we all know is just not true.
You don't even know anything at the 5-minute mark yet. Like, not enough has even happened yet. Like,
it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I wish at the very least they would change it to, a solid time after Zapdos, maybe your last minute.
Yeah.
But like, or please just get rid of it.
Or just get rid of it. That's why I say
5 minutes?
I don't even like. I like the idea of people saying like, oh well, maybe it should only be available in the last 2 minutes. I like that idea, but my counter question is like, well, why not have it why have it at all at that point? Like, we're shaving 120 seconds max. You know what I mean? Like, what's 120 seconds? Like, it's really not anything. I don't know.
I have to agree with you. I try to express the sentiment all the time that never surrender. There is always something to learn. You can always learn about defense. There's something to take away from every game.
Yeah. And again, just to press on that, it's like just for ranked at least, right? Like, if you want to leave surrender in casual modes, like whatever, I don't care.
Absolutely, because I didn't think you queued up for a casual game if you were sitting somewhere and all of a sudden you got to go. You know what I mean? Like, I have to imagine that a mobile game will sometimes need people to leave. So I have to agree that maybe even like standards should keep it, even quicks.
Yeah. Now, another scenario is like if you have a full disconnect, like the game can truly tell that the person is not there at all, then maybe it could be an option with a unanimous 4-person vote, because it's like, okay, we're just going to be grueling through having this bot the whole game anyways, so like maybe that would be an acceptable time. But most of the time, I think just like 9 times out of 10, it's like not worth having. Yeah,
I have to agree. What do you think the community has the most trouble understanding, or something that you have to teach a lot?
Just like what the hell they're supposed to be doing. Like, it just seems like there are like the game Unite is almost consistently played on a script, and that script will shift ever so slightly patch to patch, and most of the time it doesn't shift, and it still feels like people have no clue where to be and why. And the beauty of MOBAs is that there is a lot of like this free-flowing like ability to make decisions, but the irony about that is in Unite it's more scripted than any other MOBA ever. It's like I could write it down and show it to someone, and we could circulate that through the community as much as possible just to teach the basic script of how to play the game, and people would still not do it. And it's crazy. I think Spraggles said it. Like, people complain. Me and him have actually said this exact thing to each other. He said it perfectly. People complain about how OP and broken Articuno and Zapdos is, and then they don't show up to it. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you can't complain about the thing and then not go there every single game. So it's just so bizarre that what seems like a really vast majority of the player base doesn't know basic priority of the game, like neutral Audino or Ice Cube, neutral Corefish, 850Bs, 720Bs, Dreadnought or Rotom. I don't even want to put a stamp on it. Dreadnought or Rotom. Then following up with focusing the second one, whichever one wasn't taken at that time. Then when you see the timers on the map, showing up to that timer early, like then focusing on the second one at that time. Like, it's maddening. It's maddening to watch people make the same mistakes in the games like a half a year old. And I mean, matchmaking's part of that problem for sure, but it's like the game is quite literally played on a script for most of the people that play it at a decent level.
Exactly. I would even argue that people don't get basics that are in game too, like trying to score more people on a goal to score faster was like pushed down our throats all of a sudden. Like they're willing to share that mechanic, but not other things. But people
Yeah.
still can't figure that one out.
Or over dunking, like overscoring, like someone will have 40 and someone will have 3 and they'll dunk the 3 and break it. Like that one to
Oh
me,
my gosh.
I actually don't have an excuse for. Like it's just sheer ignorance. Like it's almost like an OCD thing where they see 3 and they would rather put the 3 instead of the 30 or the 40. It's like that. Like to me, it's like it's so hard to understand how a human can. The thing is like I've made that mistake. Like that mistake happens. So it's like sometimes I want to just give every person I run into the benefit of the doubt on that one. But the other times I have to think like, there's no way you just did that when there's no pressure, right? Especially because that scenario is important. Sometimes there's people coming and you want to just get the score and leave, and it happens. But a lot of the times you'll literally be the only 2 people on the goal, and one person's number is like 27 points higher than the other, and that person will score and break the goal. And it's like, dude, why? Like, why did you do that? It's so obvious that was the wrong decision. It's like little things like that that just blow me away.
I'm not gonna lie, that's like the number one reason why I would throw up a surrender vote.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what? You broke the goal. You didn't let me overcap. We're done. This is a wrap. I'm done.
It's tough.
So we're down to our last question. What imprint do you want to leave on the Unite community this year?
Ooh, that's a really good question. What imprint do I want to leave on the community? I mean, I think that my influence will always come from the very serious, competitive, discussion-based, educational side of things. So I hope whatever the imprint is, it comes from a place of experience and knowledge and teaching. Like I hope I can package that all up and I really hope that when people walk away from watching what I do, at least in videos, because my stream is a little bit different. It's a little bit more zany and silly. But at least I hope that when people can walk away from my videos, they can always say, wow, I didn't know that thing that he showed off there. Or, wow, I hadn't thought of it like that. Because when I've gotten that feeling from other content creators and other competitive players in other games, it's so mesmerizing when you see because sometimes it's so simple. You'll see someone do something so incredibly simple and you'll think to yourself, I never thought of it like that. That's crazy. And then you implement that into your game plan, your repertoire instantaneously. And it's like, oh my God, like the game has opened up for me because I learned this one really simple thing. Like if I can have people walk away from my videos and from what they get from me with that single feeling, that would be amazing. Now, the secondary answer, which is a much less Unite focus, which is why I didn't give it as the primary answer, is that I hope that the stamp that I leave on the world through my content, which is not related to Unite particularly, like my content's related on Unite, but not towards the questions framing. I hope the stamp I leave on the world is that you're just quite simply not alone, and you're quite simply capable of doing that thing that is impossible for you, and you're quite simply worth more than how you feel or how people treat you, and you are quite simply transformable, and you are irrefutably worth saving. Because I have been in the place where I didn't feel any of those things, and for some reason I get to answer this question with this answer, and I can't explain that. So it has to make sense somehow, and if somebody has to tell you that for you to hear it, to understand it, then by damned, I'll be the one that says it.
Absolutely. We all have a horribly mean brain with evil thoughts.
True.
And that's how it is. But because people don't open up about it, it's hard to know we're not alone. It's hard not to feel like we're alienated sometimes. So I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm,
Do you think you already achieved this goal, or are you still working on it?
I think it would be unfair and naive for me to feel like I haven't achieved the goal. But I think it's like my I'm looking for the term here. My cup can never be full. Like there's always someone else, you know. There's if I can literally make an impact just by making gaming content to help someone feel like they saved or changed their life, there's someone else that I can reach to. And there's someone that the person that I initially made, you know, some kind of an impact in their life, there's someone that they'll reach to. And so, yes, I definitely feel like I've achieved that goal to some degree, but my purpose in this world is to feel unfulfilled in this mission, because the minute that I feel like I've done it or made it, maybe I'd get complacent, or maybe I would be pleased enough, but I got a lot more to give. And I've recognized a level of resilience within myself, both physically and mentally, that's quite inexplicable. And so, yeah, there's always more to give. There's always more to do. There's always someone else to reach. There's always, you know, one more thing I can say. And I think that it's an unfailable mission, which is kind of crazy. I just don't think that I can fail.
I actually have to agree with you on this one, because listen, even with all the objectives you've captured, you've captured our hearts far more times. You've helped the community far more. It would not be fair to say that you haven't achieved the goal, but in another way, you've also got so much more improving to do, because we want that for you. We want you to keep evolving as a person. We want you to be better and the best you that you can be. And I think that this year is going to hold that for you. I think this will be even better than last year.
Yeah, and you know, this is one of those things that this is truly one of those things that someone sent me a very long message about one day, and I've kind of struggled with this even now. Even now, I'm thinking about that person's message when they told me that they felt like it was inappropriate or too harsh of me to bring up like my past brushes with suicidal thoughts or suicidal attempts. And I hesitate to talk about it or to bring it up, but I started and led a big portion of the year 2020 with thoughts and feelings and plans and my written and spoken goodbyes to people, and I ended the year in the best mental health position that I think I've been in the last maybe decade. And the craziest part about that is that if it wasn't for this inexplicable resilience that I speak about, if it wasn't for I can't begin to explain how many times in my life I've wanted to give up, and for some reason I didn't. I don't get it. I don't get it. But if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for my work ethic, and if it wasn't for Unite and the people that support me and all of this working, I don't think I could have gotten to this point. So how can I explain that being a video game content creator has actually physically and mentally changed me? Like, I don't know how to explain that. So going into this year, I'm probably in one of the strongest places I've ever been. And like that mission that I have and the goals that I have, both content and both socially and both anti-social media and both for various amounts of social issues, like how could I possibly fail? Like I'm the most armored up I've ever been. Like I'm yeah, I don't know, I'm like in the best place I could ask to be in.
You know, I think that it's really important too that I express similar sentiments that your community feels to you. I think that that person is coming from a place of shame. And not to say that mental health should be shamed, but you have to remember as a society, we did this for so long. We are no longer practicing that. It's 2022. We are ready to embrace people who are having dark thoughts, who are having a hard time. We're ready to talk about that. That's a normal human feeling, actually. That feeling of, I can't do this, that voice is in all of our heads. It's not just you, and surely not just that person who messaged you. Although it might seem triggering because no one else talks about it, it's extremely freeing for the rest of us who need to hear it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think I do appear stronger than I am, but I'm very strong. Like I'm a very strong person, and I think I do come off stronger than I am. But people don't realize that this is a layer of therapy in my own sense. Like I don't talk to my roommate about this. I don't talk to my friends about this. I talk to my mother, but that's because she's an active part of my like mental health treatment and recovery and stuff. So, but like when I tell people that I'm giving y'all my true self, I'm giving more of you my true self than I give people that I interact with physically on a day-to-day basis. Like I do not do this with other people. I don't feel like I can't, but I don't know that I'm even comfortable having this conversation with my roommate who I've been friends with for a decade, who's literally asleep in the other room. So yeah, like I definitely use this to my benefit and have found that there's a positive outcome for more than just myself on it.
This was beautiful, Krashy. This was gorgeous. This was everything I could have hoped for it to be. You are amazing to interview. You've gave phenomenal answers. We all got to hear pieces of you that we might have heard earlier, but I'm glad that it's all in one video so that somebody can reflect back on who you were in 2021. I think that's beautiful. And coming into 2022 with a good mindset. I think that's all beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I still don't have things figured out. I'll still figure this out. I still have plenty of fears and worries and doubts, and you know, there's a lot of negative things going on, but it's not stopping me, and I've got too much to achieve. I've got too much to prove to myself and others, and yeah, my cup is empty right now. Like I'm starting the year, and I've got lots of people that I got to get to.
There you go. There you go. I love that. I love that there's things already waiting for you. You know what I mean? You're already starting the year and you're just like coming out swinging. We love it.
Yeah.
Love the energy. All right, friend. I don't know if you want to wrap up your stream or if you'd like me to leave or if you need me to record anything like an intro with you, you let me know.
No, I think we got it. Yeah, I think we nailed it.